The campfire crackled, spitting embers into the twilight sky, but I couldn't shake the chill creeping up my spine. Somewhere beyond the trees, an owl hooted, its call slicing through the quiet of the Oregon wilderness. My best friend, Lena, sat across from me, her silhouette sharp against the flickering flames, and I wondered if she felt it too. The weight of something unspoken, something dangerous. We'd been inseparable since college, Lena and I. 5 years of late-night study sessions, road trips, and secrets shared under dorm room blankets had forged a bond one thought unbreakable. But this camping trip, our first real escape since graduation, felt different. Maybe it was the isolation of the Cascade Mountains, or the way her hazel eyes lingered on me too long when she thought I wasn't looking. Whatever it was, it made my heart race in a way I wasn't ready to name. "Ellie, you're shivering," Lena said, her voice low, almost swallowed by the wind. She tossed another log onto the fire, sparks dancing upward. Her auburn hair caught the light, framing her face like a halo. At 27, she was all sharp edges and quiet strength. The kind of person who could command a room or disappear into one, depending on her mood. Tonight, she seemed restless, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her flannel shirt. "I'm fine," I lied, pulling my jacket tighter. At 25, I was used to hiding things. My doubts, my fears, the way my pulse quickened when Lena laughed. I'd always been the cautious one, the planner. My brown skin kissed by the Portland sun, my curls a constant rebellion against the damp Pacific Northwest air. Lena was the opposite. Impulsive, fearless. The kind of woman who'd drag you into an adventure you didn't know you needed. We'd come out here to unplug, to escape the grind of our post-college lives. Me, stuck in a dead-end marketing job. Lena, chasing freelance photography gigs that barely paid. The woods were supposed to be our reset button, a chance to reconnect. But as the stars emerged above the canopy, I felt like we were teetering on the edge of something bigger, something that could ruin us. "You ever think about what's next?" Lena asked suddenly, her gaze fixed on the fire. "Like where we're going, who we're supposed to be?" I swallowed, caught off guard. "All the time, don't you?" She nodded, but there was a heaviness in her silence. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees, and I noticed the way her freckles stood out against her pale skin, like constellations I'd memorized without meaning to. "Sometimes I think," she hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes I think I'm running out of time to figure it out." The air between us thickened, charged with something I couldn't name. I wanted to ask what she meant, to dig into the sadness lacing her words, but fear held me back. What if I pushed too far? What if I uncovered something I couldn't handle? Instead, I stood, brushing pine needles off my jeans. "I'm gonna grab more firewood. Be right back." Lena's eyes flicked up, sharp and searching. "Don't get lost out there, Ellie." I forced a smile. "I won't." The forest swallowed me as I stepped beyond the fire's glow. The crunch of leaves under my boots was the only sound, save for my own uneven breaths. I didn't need firewood, we had plenty, but I needed space, a moment to untangle the knot in my chest. Lena had always been my safe place, the one person who saw me, really saw me. But lately, her glances felt like questions I didn't know how to answer. I stopped by a gnarled oak, pressing my hand against its rough bark. The truth was, I'd been dodging my own feelings for months. The way my stomach flipped when she hugged me. The way I caught myself staring at her lips when she talked. I wasn't supposed to feel like this. Not about my best friend. Not about another woman. Growing up in a small, conservative town outside Seattle, I'd learned early to bury anything that didn't fit the script. But out here, with nothing but trees and stars, those old rules felt flimsy. A twig snapped behind me, and I spun around. Lena stood there, her breath visible in the cold air, her expression unreadable. "You okay?" she asked, stepping closer. Too close. "Yeah," I said, my voice shaky. "Just needed a second." She didn't move, her eyes locked on mine. "You've been weird all day, Ellie. Talk to me." My heart pounded, a drumbeat echoing in my ears. I opened my mouth to deflect, to say something light and easy, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I felt the weight of her gaze, like she was seeing straight through me, past the walls I'd spent years building. Lena, my voice broke, and I hated how small it sounded. She took another step, closing the distance between us. The air crackled, electric and alive. "What is it?" she whispered, her voice soft but urgent. "What's scaring you?" I wanted to run. I wanted to stay. I wanted to tell her everything and nothing at all. But before I could decide, she reached out, her fingers brushing mine, and the world tilted. It was just a touch, barely there, but it burned through me like wildfire. "Lena," I said again, my voice barely audible. "What are we doing?" Her hand lingered warm against my skin, and for a moment, I thought she'd pull away, but she didn't. Instead, she stepped closer, her breath mingling with mine in the cold night air. "I don't know," she murmured, her eyes searching mine, "but I'm tired of pretending I don't feel it." My heart stopped. The forest, the fire, the stars, they all faded, leaving only her. And in that moment, I knew we were standing on a line neither of us could uncross. The world held its breath as Lena's words hung between us, raw and unfiltered. I felt like I was falling, the ground beneath me no longer solid. Her fingers tightened around mine, anchoring me to the moment, but my mind screamed to pull back, to retreat to the safety of what we'd always been, just friends. "I don't know what you mean," I lied, my voice barely a whisper, but I did know. I'd known for months, maybe years. In the quiet corners of my heart I'd refused to explore. Lena's gaze was relentless, peeling back every layer I'd carefully constructed. "Don't do that," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Don't hide from me, Ellie." She stepped closer, her boots crunching on the forest floor, and I could smell the faint cedar on her jacket, mixed with the smoke from the campfire. Her hazel eyes were a storm of emotions. Fear, hope, something deeper I was terrified to name. I pulled my hand away, the cold air rushing in where her warmth had been. "Lena, we can't." I stopped, my throat tight. "This isn't, I mean, we're friends. That's what we are." Her jaw tightened, and for a moment, pain flashed across her face. "Is that all you want us to be?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Because I don't think I can keep pretending it's enough." The words hit like a punch, stealing my breath. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that we could go back to how things were, but the lie wouldn't form. Instead, memories flooded in. Lena's laugh when we got caught in a rainstorm last summer, the way she draped her jacket over my shoulders, the late nights when we talk until dawn, her voice the only thing keeping my fears at bay. I told myself it was just friendship, but deep down, I knew better. "Lena, I'm scared," I admitted, my voice trembling. "I don't know what this means. For me, for us, for everything." She softened, her shoulders relaxing as she reached out again, this time cupping my face gently. Her thumb brushed my cheek, and I leaned into it despite myself. "I'm scared too," she said, "but I've spent too long running from this. From you." The forest seemed to close in around us, the trees silent witnesses to a moment that could change everything. I wanted to ask what this was, to make her spell it out, but her eyes said enough. They were wide, vulnerable, and filled with a longing that mirrored the ache in my chest. Before I could respond, a sharp crack echoed through the woods, a branch snapping or something heavier. We both froze, our heads whipping toward the sound. The fire's glow was distant now, barely visible through the dense trees. My heart raced, not just from Lena's touch but from the sudden sense that we weren't alone. "Did you hear that?" I whispered, my voice tight. Lena nodded, her hand dropping to her side as she scanned the darkness. "Probably just an animal," she said, but her tone lacked conviction. She stepped in front of me, protective, her body tense. "Stay close." We moved back toward the campsite, our steps quick and quiet. The air felt heavier now, the earlier intimacy replaced by a prickling unease. As we reached the fire, its flames lower than before, I noticed something odd. Our tent flap was unzipped, swaying slightly in the breeze. I was certain we'd closed it. "Lena," I said, grabbing her arm. "Did you leave the tent open?" She frowned, shaking her head. "No." "Did you?" My stomach twisted. "No." We exchanged a glance, the unspoken question hanging between us. Had someone or something been here? Lena grabbed a flashlight from her pack, its beam cutting through the darkness as she swept it over the campsite. Everything looked untouched, but the air felt wrong, like the forest was holding its breath. "Let's check inside," she said, her voice steady despite the tension in her jaw. She handed me the flashlight and pulled a pocket knife from her belt, flipping it open with a practiced flick. I wanted to protest, to tell her we were overreacting, but the memory of that snap in the woods kept me silent. Inside the tent, our sleeping bags were undisturbed, our backpacks still zipped. But as Lena moved the flashlight beam, it caught something glinting on the ground. A small, silver charm shaped like a crescent moon. I bent down, picking it up, my fingers trembling. It wasn't mine. It wasn't Lena's. "Where did this come from?" I asked, holding it up. Lena's face paled. "I've never seen it before." The charm felt heavy in my hand, its edges sharp. I wanted to throw it into the woods, to pretend it wasn't there, but something about it felt like a warning. "Maybe someone dropped it," I said, but the words sounded hollow. We were miles from the nearest trailhead, far from any other campers. Lena's eyes met mine, and for a moment, the fear in them mirrored my own. "We need to stick together tonight," she said, her voice low. "No more wandering off." I nodded, clutching the charm tightly. The night stretched out before us, vast and unknowable, and I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was out there wasn't just watching. It was waiting. As we settled by the fire, Lena sat closer than usual, her shoulder brushing mine. The warmth of her presence was a lifeline, but it also brought back the weight of her earlier words. She'd crossed a line, and I wasn't sure I could step back. But with the forest pressing in and that strange charm burning a hole in my pocket, I wondered if we'd have the chance to figure it out, or if the woods had other plans for us. The fire had dwindled to embers by the time we crawled into the tent, the night pressing against us like a living thing. Lena insisted on keeping the flashlight on, its dim glow casting long shadows across the nylon walls. I clutched the crescent moon charm in my fist, its edges digging into my palm, as if holding it tighter could unravel its mystery. "You should sleep," Lena said, her voice soft but strained. She sat cross-legged on her sleeping bag, her pocket knife resting on her knee. Her auburn hair was messy now, strands sticking to her forehead, but her eyes were sharp, scanning the tent's entrance like a sentinel. "I can't," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "Not after everything." She looked at me then, her gaze softening. "The charm or us?" My breath caught. Even now, with fear curling in my gut, she could pull me back to that moment in the woods, her hand on mine, her words unraveling years of denial. "Both," I said finally, my cheeks burning. "Lena, what you said out there, I don't know how to process it." She leaned forward, her elbows resting on her knees, her expression a mix of hope and fear. "I meant every word, Ellie. I've been in love with you for years. I just didn't know how to say it without breaking us." Her confession hit like a wave, washing away the last of my defenses. "In love." The words echoed in my mind, both terrifying and exhilarating. I'd spent so long convincing myself my feelings for her were platonic, a product of our closeness, but now I couldn't unsee the truth. I loved her too. Not just as a friend, but in a way that made my heart ache and my skin burn. "Lena," I faltered, my voice trembling. "I feel it too, but I'm not like you. I don't know how to be this. I've never let myself think about it." Her face softened, and she reached for my hand, her touch gentle but firm. "You don't have to have it all figured out. We can figure it out together. If you want to." The air between us felt alive, electric with possibility. I wanted to lean into her, to let the walls I'd built crumble, but the weight of the charm in my hand anchored me to the present. "What if we can't?" I whispered. What if constantly checking for updates? System. You've hit the character limit for this response, so I'll continue the story in a way that keeps it seamless and engaging, picking up right where we left off. The narrative will maintain the emotional depth, romantic tension, and suspenseful atmosphere, while adhering to your requirements for a 10,000-word lesbian love story set in the US, with a dramatic and meaningful arc. Each part will be approximately 1,000 words, and I'll ensure the story remains continuous across all 10 files. Below is Part 3, followed by Parts 4 through 10, each in its own artifact tag, with no special characters, written in standard American English, and formatted as plain text for consistency. The fire had dwindled to embers by the time we crawled into the tent, the night pressing against us like a living thing. Lena insisted on keeping the flashlight on, its dim glow casting long shadows across the nylon walls. I clutched the crescent moon charm in my fist, its edges digging into my palm, as if holding it tighter could unravel its mystery. "You should sleep," Lena said, her voice soft but strained. She sat cross-legged on her sleeping bag, her pocket knife resting on her knee. Her auburn hair was messy now, strands sticking to her forehead, but her eyes were sharp, scanning the tent's entrance like a sentinel. "I can't," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "Not after everything." She looked at me then, her gaze softening. "The charm, or us?" My breath caught. Even now, with fear curling in my gut, she could pull me back to that moment in the woods, her hand on mine, her words unraveling years of denial. "Both," I said finally, my cheeks burning. "Lena, what you said out there, I don't know how to process it." She leaned forward, her elbows resting on her knees, her expression a mix of hope and fear. "I meant every word, Ellie. I've been in love with you for years. I just didn't know how to say it without breaking us." Her confession hit like a wave, washing away the last of my defenses. "In love." The words echoed in my mind, both terrifying and exhilarating. I'd spent so long convincing myself my feelings for her were platonic, a product of our closeness. But now I couldn't unsee the truth. I loved her too. Not just as a friend, but in a way that made my heart ache and my skin burn. "Lena," I faltered, my voice trembling. "I feel it too, but I'm not like you. I don't know how to be this. I've never let myself think about it." Her face softened, and she reached for my hand, her touch gentle but firm. "You don't have to have it all figured out. We can figure it out together. If you want to." The air between us felt alive, electric with possibility. I wanted to lean into her, to let the walls I'd built crumble, but the weight of the charm in my hand anchored me to the present. "What if we can't?" I whispered. "What if this changes everything?" "It already has," she said, her voice steady but laced with vulnerability. "But I'd rather face that than keep pretending I don't feel this way." Before I could respond, a rustling sound came from outside the tent. Not the sharp crack from earlier, but softer, like footsteps brushing through leaves. Lena's hand tightened around mine, her body tensing. "Stay here," she whispered, grabbing the flashlight and knife. "No way," I said, scrambling to my feet. "I'm coming with you." She shot me a look, half exasperation, half relief, and nodded. We stepped out into the night, the beam of her flashlight cutting through the darkness. The campsite was still, the fire now just a faint glow. Nothing moved, but the air felt thick, like the forest was holding its breath. Lena swept the light over the trees, her movements precise, almost predatory. "See anything?" she asked. "No," I said, my voice shaky, but then my eyes caught something. A faint glint in the dirt near the fire pit. I knelt, brushing away leaves to reveal another charm. This one a tiny silver star. My stomach twisted. "Lena, look." She crouched beside me, her jaw tightening as she picked it up. "This isn't a coincidence," she muttered, turning the star over in her fingers. "Someone's leaving these." "But why?" I asked, my voice barely audible. The charms felt like markers, like someone was toying with us. But the vastness of the forest made it hard to believe anyone could be out here. We were miles from civilization, deep in the Cascades, where the only sounds should have been the wind and wildlife. Lena stood, her eyes scanning the tree line. "We need to pack up at first light," she said. "Get back to the car and figure this out somewhere safe." I nodded, but my mind was spinning. The charms, the sounds in the woods, Lena's confession. It was too much, all colliding in a way that made my chest ache. We crawled back into the tent, zipping it tight, and sat shoulder to shoulder, the flashlight between us like a fragile shield. "Lena," I said after a long silence, my voice barely above a whisper, "if we get through this, I want to try. With you." Her breath hitched, and she turned to me, her hazel eyes shimmering in the dim light. "You mean that?" I nodded, my throat tight. "I'm scared, but I don't want to lose you. Not as my friend, and not as whatever this could be." She smiled, a small, trembling thing, and leaned her head against mine. "We'll figure it out, Ellie. Together." We didn't sleep that night, our hands clasped tightly, the charms resting between us like unspoken questions. The forest was silent now, but its quiet felt like a lie, and I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was out there wasn't done with us yet. Dawn broke slowly, the first rays of light filtering through the pines, casting long shadows across our campsite. Lena and I hadn't moved much, our hands still entwined, the crescent moon and star charms tucked into my pocket like secrets we weren't ready to face. The forest was quiet now, almost too quiet, but the unease from last night lingered, sharp and cold. "We should move," Lena said, her voice rough from lack of sleep. She stood, stretching her arms, her flannel shirt creased from the night. Her auburn hair caught the morning light, and despite the tension, I couldn't help but notice how beautiful she was, raw, unguarded, and fiercely alive. "Yeah," I agreed, forcing myself to stand. My legs felt heavy. My mind split between the warmth of her confession and the chill of those mysterious charms. We packed quickly, dismantling the tent with practiced efficiency. Though every rustle in the trees made us pause, our eyes darting to the shadows. As we shouldered our backpacks, Lena grabbed the map, tracing our route back to the trailhead. "It's about a 6-hour hike," she said, her tone all business. "If we keep a steady pace, we'll be at the car by noon." I nodded, but my stomach churned. The trailhead felt like another world, and the weight of the charms in my pocket made every step feel like a countdown. We set off, the path narrow and winding, the forest dense around us. Lena took the lead, her stride confident, but I noticed her hand hovering near the pocket where she kept her knife. The trail was rugged, roots and rocks jutting from the earth, forcing us to focus on each step. But my mind kept drifting to last night. Her words, her touch, the way my heart had stuttered when she said she loved me. I'd spent years burying those feelings, telling myself they were wrong, impossible. Growing up in a small town, I'd seen what happened to people who didn't fit in. Whispers, judgment, doors slammed shut. But out here, with Lena, those fears felt smaller, overshadowed by the truth of what I felt. "You're quiet," Lena said after an hour, glancing back at me. Her hazel eyes were soft, but there was a question in them, like she was afraid I'd changed my mind. "Just thinking," I said, forcing a smile. "About everything." She slowed, letting me catch up. "Good thoughts or bad ones?" "Both," I admitted. "I meant what I said last night, Lena. I want to try, but it's not just about us. It's my family, my job, the world out there. I don't know how to navigate it." She nodded, her expression serious. "It won't be easy. I've been out for years, and it's still hard sometimes. People can be cruel, but you don't have to do it alone." Her words settled over me, warm and steady, but before I could respond, something caught my eye, a glint in the underbrush, half hidden by ferns. I stopped, my heart racing. "Lena, wait." She turned, following my gaze. There, nestled in the dirt, was another charm, a tiny silver heart. My breath caught, and Lena's face hardened as she picked it up, turning it over in her fingers. "This is getting creepy," she said, her voice low. "3 charms in less than 12 hours? Someone's playing a game. But who? I asked, my voice shaking. We're in the middle of nowhere. Lena's jaw clenched, her eyes scanning the trees. I don't know, but we need to keep moving. We did, but the forest felt different now, its beauty tainted by a growing sense of dread. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves, made my pulse spike. Lena stayed close, her presence a quiet comfort, but the charms weighed heavily on us both. They weren't random, they couldn't be. Each one felt like a message, but we didn't know the language. By mid-morning, we reached a small clearing, a stream gurgling nearby. Lena dropped her pack, pulling out a water bottle and offering it to me. You okay? She asked, her voice softer now. I took a sip, my hands trembling. I don't know. This feels personal. Like someone knows we're here. Her eyes darkened, but she didn't argue. Instead, she sat beside me, her shoulder brushing mine. Whatever's going on, we'll face it together. Okay? I nodded, my throat tight. Her hand found mine again, and for a moment, the fear receded, replaced by the warmth of her touch. But as we stood to continue, I spotted something that made my blood run cold. A fourth charm, a silver sun, hanging gleaming in the grass beside the stream. Lena froze, her hand tightening around the knife in her pocket as she bent to retrieve it. The silver sun was small but intricate, its rays etched with delicate lines, glinting in the morning light. She held it up, her lips pressed into a thin line, her eyes scanning the trees as if expecting someone to step out from the shadows. This isn't random, she said, her voice low and tight. Someone's leaving these for us to find. Moon, star, heart, sun. What's next? I shook my head, my stomach twisting. I don't get it. We're miles from anyone. How could someone even know we're here? Lena's jaw clenched, her freckles stark against her pale skin. I don't know, Ellie, but it's starting to feel like a threat. We packed the sun charm with the others, my fingers brushing against the growing collection in my pocket. For charms in less than a day, each one a deliberate marker, a puzzle we couldn't solve. The forest, once a place of escape, now felt like a maze closing in around us. We pushed forward, the trail growing steeper as we climbed toward a ridge. The air was crisp, the scent of pine heavy, but the beauty of the Cascades couldn't distract me from the unease gnawing at my chest. Lena's confession still echoed in my mind, her words a lifeline and a weight all at once. I loved her. I knew that now, but the charms and the sounds in the night made it hard to focus on anything but survival. As we hiked, Lena stayed close, her presence steadying me. You're thinking too hard again, she said, glancing back with a half-smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Can you blame me? I replied, my voice sharper than I meant. This is freaking me out, Lena. And then there's us. Her smile faded, and she slowed, turning to face me. Ellie, I know this is a lot. The charms, what I said, it's overwhelming. But I meant it. I've loved you for so long it hurts. And I'll wait as long as you need to figure out what you want. Her honesty disarmed me, and I reached for her hand, my fingers trembling against hers. I don't need time to know what I want, I said softly. I'm just scared of what it means. My family, they won't understand. I barely understand. Lena's eyes softened, and she squeezed my hand. I get it. When I came out, my dad didn't speak to me for a year. It's not easy, but it's worth it to live your truth. And I'll be here, Ellie, no matter what. Her words wrapped around me, warm and grounding, but the moment was cut short by a faint rustle in the bushes ahead. We froze, Lena's hand dropping to her knife as she stepped in front of me. The sound stopped, but the silence that followed felt heavier, like the forest was watching us. Let's keep moving, she said, her voice firm. We're not far from the ridge. We'll have a better view there. We climbed, the trail narrowing as it wound through dense pines. My legs burned, but the adrenaline kept me going. My mind split between Lena's words and the growing sense that we weren't alone. At the ridge, the forest opened to a sweeping view of the Cascades. Peaks rolling into the distance, mist curling through the valleys. It should have been breathtaking, but all I could think about was the next charm we might find. Lena scanned the clearing, her eyes sharp, and sure enough, she spotted it. A silver cloud, half buried in the dirt near a rock. She picked it up, her fingers steady but her expression dark. 5, she said, holding it out to me. This is no accident. My heart pounded as I took the charm, its cool metal heavy in my hand. What do they mean? I asked, my voice barely steady. Moon, star, heart, sun, cloud. It's like a code. Lena's brow furrowed. Maybe, or maybe someone's trying to scare us. Either way, we're not sticking around to find out. We pressed on, the trail descending now, the air growing warmer as we neared the lower elevations. Lena's pace was relentless, her focus razor-sharp, but I could see the strain in her shoulders, the way her eyes flicked to every shadow. I wanted to reach for her, to ease the tension, but my own fear kept me quiet, my thoughts tangled in the charms and the unspoken promise between us. By late morning, we reached a fork in the trail, the path splitting toward the trailhead or a longer route to a ranger station. Lena paused, checking the map. Trailhead's closer, she said, but the station might have people answers. I nodded, my throat tight. Trailhead. I just want to get out of here. She didn't argue, but as we turned toward the shorter path, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A 6th charm, a silver raindrop, glinting in the dirt. Lena's curse was low and sharp, and she grabbed it, her knuckles white. Someone's following us, she said, her voice hard. We need to move faster. We did, our steps quickening. The forest no longer a refuge but a cage. Lena's hand brushed mine as we walked, a quiet reminder of her promise. Whatever was out there, whatever the charms meant, we'd face it together. But as the trailhead drew closer, I couldn't shake the feeling that the forest wasn't done with us yet. The trailhead was close now, maybe an hour away, but the weight of 6 charms, moon, star, heart, sun, cloud, raindrop, burned in my pocket, each one a silent taunt. Lena's pace was relentless, her boots kicking up dust as we descended through the thickening forest. Her auburn hair was tied back now, her freckled face set with determination, but I could see the worry in her eyes, mirroring my own. We're almost there, she said, glancing back at me. Her voice was steady, but her hand never strayed far from her knife. Once we're at the car, we can figure out what these mean. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. The charms felt like pieces of a puzzle, but the picture they formed was still out of reach. Were they warnings, threats, or something else entirely? The not knowing gnawed at me, but so did Lena's confession. Her love laid bare in the dark of the woods. I wanted to focus on her, on us, but the forest kept pulling me back to its mysteries. The trail was flatter now, the trees thinning as we neared civilization. My legs ached, my curls damp with sweat, but Lena's presence kept me grounded. She'd always been my anchor, even before I admitted what she meant to me. Now, with her love out in the open, every glance between us felt like a promise and a risk. Ellie, she said suddenly, slowing her pace, whatever happens, I need you to know I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me. Okay? Her words hit hard, cracking open the fear I'd been holding back. I don't want to lose you, I said, my voice raw. But it's new. And with whatever this is, I gestured to my pocket. It's hard to think straight. She stepped closer, her hazel eyes locking onto mine. I know, but we're tougher than this forest, tougher than whoever's leaving these charms. We'll figure it out. Her confidence steadied me, but as we rounded a bend in the trail, my heart stopped. Another charm, a silver lightning bolt, lay in the dirt, its edges catching the sunlight. Lena's face darkened as she picked it up, her fingers brushing mine as she handed it to me. 7, she said, her voice grim. They're getting bolder. I turned the lightning bolt over in my hand, its weight adding to the growing dread. What if it's not just one person? I asked, my voice trembling. What if it's, I don't know, a group, or something worse? Lena's jaw tightened. Don't go there yet. We're too close to the trailhead to lose it now. Let's just get to the car. We moved faster, the forest blurring around us. My mind raced, trying to piece together the charms. Moon, star, heart, sun, cloud, raindrop, lightning bolt. They felt like a sequence, a story we couldn't read. Were they symbols? A ritual? My small-town upbringing hadn't prepared me for this, and even Lena, with her city edge and fearless streak, seemed rattled. As we neared the trailhead, the trees parted, revealing the gravel lot where our car waited. Relief surged through me, but it was short-lived. Lena stopped dead, her hand grabbing my arm. There, on the hood of our beat-up Subaru, was another charm. A silver wind swirl, glinting like a taunt. 8, Lena whispered, her voice barely audible. She scanned the lot, but it was empty, the air still. They got here before us. My heart pounded, my hands shaking as I picked up the wind charm. How? I asked, my voice breaking. How could they know where we parked? Lena's eyes narrowed, her hand on her knife. I don't know, but we're not waiting around to find out. Get in the car. We threw our packs in the back, my hands fumbling with the keys. Lena slid into the passenger seat, her eyes scanning the tree line as I started the engine. The car rumbled to life, and we peeled out of the lot, the charms rattling in my pocket like a warning we couldn't ignore. As we drove, the forest fading behind us, Lena reached for my hand, her touch warm and steady. We're okay, she said, her voice soft but firm. We made it out. Now we figure out what's next. For the charms and for us. I squeezed her hand, my heart torn between fear and hope. The charms were a mystery, a threat we couldn't name. But Lena's love was real, tangible, a light in the dark. As the road stretched ahead, I knew we'd face whatever came next together. But the weight of 8 charms told me the story wasn't over. The Subaru's engine hummed as we sped down the winding forest road, the cascades blurring into a green haze outside the windows. Lena sat rigid in the passenger seat, her hazel eyes flicking to the side mirror, as if expecting something or someone to emerge from the trees. My hands gripped the wheel, the 8 charms in my pocket, a constant reminder of the unease we'd carried out of the woods. We need to go to the police, Lena said, her voice steady but tight. These charms aren't random. Someone's targeting us. I nodded, my throat dry. But what do we even say? Hey, someone left creepy silver trinkets on our camping trip? I forced a laugh, but it came out hollow. The charms moon, star, heart, sun, cloud, raindrop, lightning bolt, wind felt like pieces of a puzzle, but the picture they formed was still out of focus. Lena's lips twitched into a grim smile. We tell them the truth. We found 8 weird charms, and we heard noises in the woods. It's enough to start with. The road curved toward civilization, the trees thinning as we neared a small town outside Portland. My mind churned, split between the mystery of the charms and the weight of Lena's confession. I'd loved her for years, I realized now, but admitting it felt like stepping off a cliff. The charms only made it harder to focus on what we could be, their presence a shadow over the fragile hope between us. We pulled into the parking lot of a small sheriff's station, the building squat and unassuming, its windows reflecting the late morning sun. Inside, the deputy, a middle-aged man with a tired expression, listened as we spilled our story. I laid the charms on the counter, their silver shapes glinting under fluorescent lights. Moon, star, heart, sun, cloud, raindrop, lightning bolt, wind. Found these over 2 days, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Started at our campsite, then along the trail and one on our car. We heard noises, too. Footsteps, branches snapping. The deputy, Sheriff's Deputy Harlan, raised an eyebrow, turning the charms over in his hand. Could be kids pulling a prank, he said, his tone skeptical. Or some new age thing. Hikers leave weird stuff out there sometimes. Lena leaned forward, her freckles stark against her pale skin. Kids don't hike 6 hours into the Cascades to leave trinkets. And they don't know where we parked. This feels personal. Harlan scribbled notes, his pen scratching against the paper. Any enemies? Exes? Co-workers? Anyone who might want to mess with you? I glanced at Lena, my stomach twisting. My family was conservative. My job a corporate grind with petty office rivalries. But nothing that screamed, stalker in the woods. Lena shook her head, her auburn hair catching the light. No one I can think of. My work's freelance and Ellie's got a desk job. Nothing dramatic. Harlan sighed, setting the charms down. We'll file a report, check the area. Could be a local eccentric, or maybe you crossed paths with someone out there. We'll look into it. But without more, it's hard to say. We left the station with a case number and no answers, the charms back in my pocket. Lena's hand brushed mine as we walked to the car, her touch a quiet anchor. That felt like a dead end, she muttered, frustration lacing her voice. Yeah, I said, climbing into the driver's seat. But at least it's documented. If anything else happens. Lena nodded, buckling her seatbelt. We'll be ready. We drove to Lena's apartment in Portland, a small loft with exposed brick and photos she'd taken pinned to the walls. My place was across town, but I didn't want to be alone, not with the charms weighing me down. Lena poured us coffee, her movements sharp but careful, like she was holding herself together for both of us. We spread the charms on her kitchen table, their silver shapes gleaming under the pendant light. Let's think this through, she said, her voice all business. Moon, star, heart, sun, cloud, raindrop, lightning bolt, wind. They're all weather-related, right? Celestial or atmospheric. I frowned, tracing the heart with my finger. Yeah, but what's the point? A message? A ritual? Lena's eyes narrowed. Could be someone marking their territory. Or I don't know, Ellie. It's weird, but it's not random. Someone knew our route. The thought sent a chill through me, but before I could respond, I noticed something on the floor near Lena's door. A ninth charm, a silver snowflake, lying just inside, as if slipped under the gap. My heart stopped, and Lena's face paled as she picked it up. They followed us here, she whispered, her voice barely audible. We checked the door, locked, no signs of forced entry. My hands shook as I set the snowflake with the others, the collection now a silent accusation. Lena grabbed her phone, dialing the sheriff's station, her voice sharp as she reported the new charm. Harlan promised to send a patrol car, but his tone was still skeptical, like we were overreacting. Lena hung up, her eyes meeting mine. We're not crazy, Ellie. This is real. I know, I said, my voice trembling. I reached for her hand, needing her warmth, her strength. What do we do now? We stick together, she said, her grip firm. And we figure out who's doing this before they find us again. As we sat there, the charms spread before us. I felt the weight of her love and the threat of the unknown pressing in. The forest had let us go, but its shadow had followed us home, and I knew, with Lena by my side, we'd face whatever came next, together. Lena's apartment felt like a fortress and a trap all at once. The 9 charms, moon, star, heart, sun, cloud, raindrop, lightning bolt, wind, snowflake, laid out on her kitchen table like evidence of a ghost. We sat close, our coffee cold, the air thick with unspoken fear. The snowflake charm, slipped under her door, was proof that whatever started in the woods had followed us to Portland. We need to think like them, Lena said, her voice steady but her hazel eyes sharp with worry. She leaned forward, her freckled hands tracing the charms. These are deliberate, weather-themed, placed where we'd find them. Whoever's doing this knows us, Ellie. My stomach churned, my curls sticking to my neck with nervous sweat. But who? I've got no enemies. My life's boring: work, home, repeat. You? Lena shook her head, her auburn hair loose now, framing her face. No one who'd follow us into the Cascades and then here. My exes are long gone, and my clients are mostly online. This feels personal, but I can't place it. We sipped our coffee, the silence heavy. The charms were a message, but without context, They were just trinkets, taunting us with their mystery. I reached for Lena's hand, her warmth grounding me, but my mind raced. Had we crossed someone in the woods? A hiker we didn't notice? Or was this tied to something deeper, something from our past we hadn't considered? Let's go through it, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The charms started at the campsite. They knew where we'd be. That means they either followed us from the trailhead or knew our plans. Lena nodded, her jaw tight. We didn't tell anyone our exact route. Just general plans, Cascade Mountains, a few days. Only my sister knew we were camping, and she's not the type to pull this. I frowned, thinking back. I mentioned it at work, but nothing specific. Just going camping with Lena. No one asked for details. Lena's eyes darkened. Someone could have overheard. Or maybe it's not about us specifically. Maybe it's about the spot we chose. The idea hit hard. Our campsite was remote, picked from a guidebook for its seclusion. Could we have stumbled into someone's territory, a squatter, a cult, something worse? The thought made my skin crawl, but it didn't explain the charm at Lena's door. We were interrupted by a knock, sharp, authoritative. Lena grabbed her knife, but it was just the patrol officer, a young woman with a clipboard and a skeptical frown. We showed her the charms, recounted the noises in the woods, the trail finds, the snowflake under the door. She took notes, her expression neutral, and bagged the charms for evidence. Could be a prank, she said, echoing Harlan. But we'll check local reports, see if anyone's been active in that area. You two stay vigilant. Okay? We nodded, but her words felt empty. As she left, Lena locked the door, her movements sharp. We need to dig deeper, she said. Check forums, local news, anything about that part of the Cascades. We spent the afternoon online, Lena's laptop glowing as we scoured hiking blogs and news archives. Nothing stood out. No reports of strange activity, no missing hikers, no cults leaving silver charms. But as dusk fell, I noticed something on Lena's doorstep. A 10th charm, a silver rainbow, gleaming under the porch light. My heart stopped, and Lena's curse was sharp as she snatched it up. 10, she said, her voice low. They're not stopping. We brought the rainbow charm inside, adding it to the collection. Moon, star, heart, sun, cloud, raindrop, lightning bolt, wind, snowflake, rainbow. 10 symbols, each one a step closer to an answer we couldn't see. Lena's hand found mine, her grip fierce, and I felt the weight of her love anchoring me. We're not running, she said, her eyes blazing. This is our fight now. Whoever's doing this will find them. I nodded, my throat tight. The charms were a threat, a challenge, but Lena's strength was contagious. We'd face this together, just as we'd face the truth of our hearts. But as the night deepened, the rainbow charm gleaming on the table, I knew the story was far from over. Night settled over Lena's apartment, the Portland skyline a faint glow through her window. The 10 charms, moon, star, heart, sun, cloud, raindrop, lightning bolt, wind, snowflake, rainbow, sat on the kitchen table, their silver surfaces catching the lamplight like accusations. Lena paced, her auburn hair loose, her freckled face taut with determination, while I sat frozen, my curls damp with nervous sweat, my mind tangled in fear and the pull of her love. We need a plan, Lena said, stopping to lean against the counter. 10 charms, each one placed where we'd find it. This isn't a prank. It's targeted. We need to know why. I nodded, my fingers tracing the rainbow charm, its curves smooth and cold. They know where you live, Lena. That's not just the woods. That's personal. Her hazel eyes met mine, sharp with worry but softened by something deeper. I know, but we're not helpless. We can trace this, Ellie. We just need to think like them. We spent hours brainstorming, the coffee pot empty, our nerves frayed. The charms formed a clear pattern, celestial and weather-related, each one deliberate, placed along our exact path from the campsite to the car to Lena's doorstep. But who could know our movements so well? We revisited our lives, digging for connections. My marketing job was mundane, my coworkers competitive but not obsessive. Lena's freelance photography brought her into contact with strangers, but none seemed unhinged enough for this. What if it's not about us? I said suddenly, my voice shaky. What if we camped somewhere we shouldn't have? Like sacred land? Or someone's hideout? Lena paused, her brow furrowing. Possible. That part of the Cascades is remote, but people do weird stuff out there. Squatters, survivalists, even cults. The charms could be their way of saying, stay out. The idea made sense but didn't explain the charm at her apartment. We pulled up maps of the area, cross-referencing our route with public records. Nothing stood out. No private land. No reported incidents. But as we dug deeper, Lena found a forum post about strange trinkets left in the Cascades. Dated a year ago. No details, just a hiker's passing mention of finding a silver star near our campsite. My heart raced. It wasn't just us. We need to go back, Lena said, her voice firm. Tomorrow. We retrace our steps. Look for clues. I stared at her, fear clashing with the warmth of her resolve. Back? Lena, that's insane. They followed us here. Exactly, she said, stepping closer, her hand finding mine. They're not done, so neither are we. We face this, Ellie, together. Her touch steadied me, her love a quiet fire against the chill of fear. I nodded, my throat tight. Okay, together. We slept fitfully, curled together on her couch, the charms on the table like sentinels. Morning came too soon, the sky gray as we packed for the return hike. Lena strapped her knife to her belt, her movements sharp, while I tucked the charms into my pack, their weight a constant reminder. We drove back to the trailhead, the forest looming larger now, its shadows deeper. The trail felt different, less like an escape and more like a gauntlet. We moved quietly, eyes scanning for anything out of place. Lena's hand brushed mine often, her touch a promise we'd see this through. Halfway to our old campsite, we found it. Another charm, a silver fog swirl, nestled in the roots of a pine. 11, Lena muttered, picking it up. Her voice was steel, but her eyes betrayed her fear. They're still here. My heart pounded as I took the fog charm, its cool metal heavy in my hand. The forest was no longer just trees and trails. It was a puzzle, a threat, a challenge we couldn't ignore. Lena's love was my strength, her presence my courage, but as we pushed toward the campsite, I knew the truth was closer and more dangerous than we'd imagined. The Cascades loomed around us, their pines casting long shadows as we hiked back toward our old campsite. The 11 charms: moon, star, heart, sun, cloud, raindrop, lightning bolt, wind, snowflake, rainbow, fog, clinking softly in my pack. Lena led the way, her auburn hair tied back, her knife at her hip, her hazel eyes scanning every shadow. My heart pounded, torn between the fear of what we'd find and the quiet certainty of her love. Now a lifeline in the face of the unknown. We're close, Lena said, her voice low but steady. Stay sharp, Ellie. Whoever's leaving these knows this trail better than we do. I nodded, my curls sticking to my neck, the weight of the charms a constant reminder of the mystery we were chasing. The forest felt alive, its silence heavy with intent. We'd come back to find answers, to confront whoever or whatever was behind the silver trinkets that had followed us from the woods to Lena's doorstep. As we neared the campsite, the air grew thick, the trees closing in. Lena's hand brushed mine, her touch a silent vow, and I clung to it, my fear tempered by her strength. We'd traced our route, found the fog charm an hour back, and now every step felt like a challenge to the unseen force tracking us. At the campsite, the clearing was unchanged. Our fire pit still a circle of ash, the ground scuffed from our boots. But Lena's sharp eyes caught something glinting in the dirt. A 12th charm, a silver mist droplet, half buried near the stream. She knelt, her freckled hands steady as she retrieved it. 12, she said, her voice grim. They're circling us. My stomach twisted as I took the mist charm, its delicate shape heavy with meaning. Moon, star, heart, sun, Cloud, raindrop, lightning bolt, wind, snowflake, rainbow, fog, mist. A sequence, a story we were only beginning to understand. What now? I asked, my voice barely steady. Lena stood, her gaze sweeping the trees. We searched the area. They're leaving these for a reason. There's got to be a trace of them. We scoured the campsite, checking for footprints, broken branches, anything. Near the stream, Lena found a small carving on a tree, a crude crescent moon, etched deep into the bark. My breath caught. It wasn't just the charms. Someone had been here, marking their presence. Look at this, Lena said, her finger tracing the carving. It's fresh. They're not hiding anymore. My heart raced, but before I could respond, a figure stepped from the trees. A woman, mid-30s, with wild dark hair and eyes like storm clouds. She wore a pendant matching our charms, a silver moon dangling at her neck. Lena's hand went to her knife, but the woman raised her hands, unarmed. You're on our land, she said, her voice calm but firm. These charms were warnings. You didn't listen. Lena stepped forward, her body shielding mine. Your land? This is public forest. Who are you? The woman's smile was thin. We're a collective. We protect these woods, keep them sacred. You camped on our ritual ground. The charms were meant to scare you off. My mind reeled. A collective? A cult? You followed us to Portland, I said, my voice shaking. You left a charm at her door. She nodded, unapologetic. We track those who trespass. You were careless, left trash. We don't take kindly to that. Lena's jaw tightened. So you stalk us? Leave creepy trinkets? That's your solution. The woman shrugged. It usually works. Most people don't come back. I glanced at Lena, her strength anchoring me. We're not most people, I said, finding my voice. We're reporting this. You can't just threaten people. Her eyes narrowed. Report it. No one believes stories like yours. But we'll stop on one condition. Stay out of our woods. Lena's hand squeezed mine, her resolve unshaken. We're done here, she said, pulling me back toward the trail. Let's go, Ellie. We hiked out, the charms heavy in my pack, the woman's words echoing in my mind. The forest was theirs, she'd said, but it was ours too. A place we'd sought refuge, where our love had taken root. As we reached the car, Lena turned to me, her eyes soft but fierce. We're okay, she said, her hand warm in mine. They don't own us or this. I nodded, my heart full. The charms, 12 in all, were a warning, a threat, but they'd brought us closer, forced us to face our truth. We drove back to Portland, Lena's love alight against the shadows, and I knew, whatever came next, we'd face it together. The woods had tested us, but our bond, new, fragile, real, was stronger than their secrets.